In the age of disco and swinging singles, one risque sitcom ruled the ratings. But behind the scenes of Three's Company, these wacky roommates waged a bitter war.
Battle lines were being drawn.
Now, in exclusive interviews, the original cast breaks the silence.
I was lied to my face.
And reveals what tore apart TV's hippest trio.
I wish I didn't have to leave with all these people hating me.
Three's Company, tonight at 8 Eastern and Pacific on the E! True Hollywood Story.
Me move in here with you two? Mm-hmm. Are you serious?
Yeah, of course, you'll have to share everything.
Gladly.
In March of 1977, a handsome bachelor named Jack Tripper moved into an apartment with two gorgeous roommates, Janet and Chrissy. This simple premise launched the television series Three's Company. The show's liberal dose of sexy escapades and wild slapstick made it a runaway smash.
The network, would come to run-throughs like this. Only till we were a top 10, then they were like, "Hi, how can we serve you?"
A lot of it had to do with sex. Who was getting it? Who wasn't getting it? Why weren't they getting it? How could a guy live with two girls and not get it?
For 8 years, Three's Company jiggled and stumbled its way to top 10 ratings. Cast members Suzanne Summers, John Ritter, and Joyce DeWitt became international superstars. But the show's success created trouble. Money trouble.
She was greedy, and there was no reason for it.
At the height of the show's popularity, Suzanne Summers' bitter contract dispute halted production and threatened to topple the multi-million-dollar enterprise.
He said, "We want $150,000 an episode and 10% ownership of the program."
In the next 2 hours, the E! True Hollywood Story takes you back to the swinging 70s to go behind the scenes of one of the most popular comedies in television history.
We did a one-act show every Friday night. They were little gems.
Through vintage film clips, rare photographs, and in-depth interviews, you'll learn how the producers, cast, and crew created a loving family that was ripped apart in a messy divorce.
It was really ugly, and there were a lot of tears.
And for the first time in nearly 20 years, Suzanne Summers, John Ritter, Joyce DeWitt, and the entire cast reflect on the show that brought them fame and fortune, and the wounds that for some have yet to heal.
It was difficult enough, hurtful enough, disappointing enough in terms of disrespectful treatment that I did have to disappear.
This is the story of how one popular television show spawned a litany of ego and excess, power and greed. This is the story of the meteoric rise and turbulent run of Three's Company, the E! True Hollywood Story.
There was a positive dream of being one of the world's
Her life's ambition was to be a star.
never recover from the public stand.
Long before Jack Tripper ever tumbled over a piece of furniture or Chrissy Snow melted hearts around the world, three swinging singles in Britain were stirring up controversy in the mid-70s in a racy comedy called Man About the House. In 1975, Don Taffner was the U.S. representative for British programming giant Thames Television. Taffner thought Man About the House had tremendous potential as an American series, so he contacted his partner, Ted Bergman.
I then presented Man About the House to all three networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC. And all the program departments loved the show. They thought it was great. But when they took it to their standards and practices, censors, quote unquote, all three had to turn it down. They said, "You're not having a man living with two girls on our network."
Within weeks, however, Fred Silverman became the new programming chief at ABC. Immediately after he was hired, Silverman called Bergman with a question.
"Do you still have that British show with a guy living with two girls?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I want to develop it." I said, "Well, your standards and practices people have turned it down." He said, "Let me worry about them."
Author Chris Mann chronicled the history of Three's Company in his 1998 book, Come and Knock on Our Door.
It was Fred Silverman who really was the mastermind behind it, who knew that this would be the same breakthrough in sexiness as All in the Family was in Race.
After one aborted pilot script, Silverman ordered Bergman to hire the best comedy writer he could find.
Larry Gelbart, who created and wrote and produced MASH, the TV version, was the hottest writer at the time.
Gelbart began writing what he envisioned would be a sophisticated comedy. Casting began in January 1976 on what was now being called Three's Company. 28-year-old John Ritter, son of famed country musician Tex Ritter, was everybody's first choice to play lovable Jack Tripper. Executive producer Donald Taffner.
When we saw him, everybody just looked around and said, "That's the guy." It was amazing. I don't think I've ever done that before. That was the guy. I didn't even do that when I got married.
Ritter gained national recognition playing the soft-spoken Reverend Fordwick on the TV series The Waltons.
I had this little bit that I did when I was on The Waltons with my friends, who were some of them actors, some of them not, but I'd say I can't go in there because I'll be mobbed. Everyone knows I'm Reverend Fordwick from The Waltons. Of course, no one I knew watched The Waltons except for my parents.
Actress Valerie Curtin won the role of Jenny, the smart and sassy brunette, while relative unknown Suzanne Zenor beat out dozens of eager blondes as the intellectually challenged Samantha. Rounding out the cast were industry veterans Norman Fell and Audra Lindley as the bickering landlords, the Ropers.
I read it and I said, I haven't played a lot of comedy. I was playing serious stuff and cops and all kinds of stuff like that. So I said, I think this might be fun.
Larry Gelbart's pilot taped in mid-March of 1976. At the time, ABC's West Coast operations were headed by current Disney chief Michael Eisner.
I went back to Eisner, and Eisner said, "We don't like the girls you've got in there. You have to make another pilot." And I said, "You don't have the right to make us make another pilot. Your only right is to pick up the series for either the fall or for January for mid-season."
Ted Bergman was not willing at first to remake this pilot just so ABC could sit on it for another season. And so he took the pilot to his friend Bud Grant at CBS.
He wouldn't let me out of the office until we screened it for Bob Daly, who was his boss. And at that point, they said, "What do you want?"
What Bergman wanted and got was a commitment from CBS to air 13 episodes of Three's Company if ABC passed on its option. Bergman returned to the Beverly Hills Hotel to call his partner Don Taffner with the good news.
Fred Silverman was in the next room and overheard this conversation, so it was very much like Three's Company.
The next morning, I got a phone call which started out with, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in the Beverly Hills Hotel." "Who is this?" He said, "This is Freddie Silverman. I'm in the Beverly Hills Hotel too." I said, "Oh, that's interesting." He said, "What's going on with Three's Company?" I said, "Well, your man Eisner's giving us a very difficult time." He said, "Well, what do you want?" I said, "I want a commitment for mid-season from ABC for the series."
ABC and the producers reached a compromise. The network promised to air 6 episodes, but only if a second pilot was produced with new female leads. Since Larry Gelbart's contract only called for him to write 1 pilot, he departed the project.
It was at that point that I brought Nickel, Ross, and West into the show.
Don Nickel, Michael Mickey Ross, and Bernie West, known as NRW, first joined forces while writing All in the Family for Norman Lear. After creating The Jeffersons, they became hot commodities in Hollywood. Bernie West recalls their first pitch meeting with producer Ted Bergman.
We sat around and listened to the ideas, and I thought it was a very good idea. A young man living with 2 women, and it's completely platonic, but little things come up that make it provocative.
NRW came on board and made an immediate and drastic change in the style of the show. They saw Three's Company as pure bedroom farce, loaded with mistaken identities, sexual innuendo, and double entendres.
Not tonight, Helen. I got a headache.
They wanted it to be provocative, certainly, but I think they also wanted it to have youth appeal, and I think that's what NRW brought to it. John Ritter certainly had the youth appeal, but the writing became much more whimsical and silly.
After altering the format, NRW set about recasting the women. 27-year-old Joyce DeWitt was offered the part of Janet Wood without having to audition. DeWitt was under contract to ABC and was championed by network head Fred Silverman.
Fred wanted John and Fred wanted me, and that's what was happening. It was his baby.
Casting the role of Chrissy Snow, the naive blonde, proved to be much more challenging.
The really attractive young ladies most of them lacked the personality to do comedy.
A new Chrissy was hired, but she was replaced by actress Susan Lanier just days before the second pilot taped on November 5, 1976. ABC programming chief Fred Silverman liked everything about the second pilot except Susan Lanier. A frantic search was launched to find a new blonde to bring Chrissy to life.
Fred Silverman recommended Suzanne Summers. He had seen her on one of their hour shows.
29-year-old Suzanne Summers was best known as the blonde in the T-Bird in the movie American Graffiti. But Summers had caught Fred Silverman's eye in an episode of Starsky and Hutch.
I mean, to put it all out front, the marriage broke up because there was hardly ever a sex scene. I mean, not that Wilbur couldn't get it together, if you know what I mean. It's like he goes for gambling. You know, the horses, basketball, football. You know, a real sports freak.
And then I get this call from my then manager who said, there's this interview, they're really interested in you, called Three's Company. And I said, I really don't want to go. I had decided that I was leaving the business because I had done 9 television pilots in the years prior to Three's Company, and all of them failed.
But Summers did attend the audition. The producers were getting desperate. Without a Chrissy, production would have to be postponed yet again.
Fred Silverman said so. That's a step in the right direction. So rather than be closed down, we took Suzanne.
Ted Bergman was dubious at first.
She could not do comedy. She had never done comedy.
But Summers had the look and the naivete the producers were searching for, and she was hired. The third Three's Company pilot was taped on February 11, 1977. The show aired a month later, on March 15th.
The first week the show ranked in like the top 30. The second week it was in the top 10, top 5. It was an enormous hit. It was #1 in its time slot. So it was an immediate success, and it shocked people because at that time a mid-season replacement had never done that well.
Coming up.
No one can ever be prepared for that kind of fame. It was literally overnight. I was one person on Monday, and on Tuesday I was a different person.
Same dramas.
Dirty, frightened, paranoid.
New Time. The E! True Hollywood Story. Now at its new time. 8 o'clock every night only on E!
Introducing the Acura MDX, taking the SUV to a place it's never been before.
Abner, we're rich.
We're rich?
It's our new litter. It's got diamonds in it.
Diamonds! What's a diamond?
A diamond is a very valuable...
You are mistaken, my friends. The diamonds are crystals in new Tidy Cats Crystals blend. The clay traps moisture, the crystals eliminate odor, and that is the only reason I agreed to live here with the likes of you.
Whatever.
New Tidy Cats Crystals blend.
I still think they're diamonds.
I want to do more than just fight a few signs of aging. I want to stop it in its tracks.
New Total Effects with UV protection. Fights 7 signs of aging and helps prevent UV damage to collagen and elastin. Total Effects from Olay. Now with UV protection.
I watch this guy in his bathroom when he's getting ready for work. I don't know how old he is. 27, 28 maybe?
I want you to want me.
He's really not my type. He flosses way too much. But you can't rule out a guy who knows all the words to one of the greatest songs of all time.
Introducing the 10-minute breakthrough. Get beautiful, gentle, long-lasting hair color in just 10 minutes with Revlon's High Dimension Permanent Hair Color. It'll take you longer to get dressed. High Dimension Hair Color, only from Revlon.
Rated M for mature. Twisted Metal. Black.
My name's Forrest Gump. People call me Forrest Gump.
Now on DVD, the Forrest Gump Special Collector's Edition. This 2-disc set contains over 2 hours of special features. Forrest Gump, now on DVD. Buy it today.
The JCPenney Labor Day sale. So good, nothing will get you down. Save 20 to 50% store-wide. Plus, save an extra 10% using your Pennies card. It's all inside. Smile on. JCPenney.
Same dramas, new time. The E! True Hollywood Story, now at its new time, 8 o'clock every night only.
I just needed a salad bowl, right? So I took her to this new place called House to Home. She got the salad bowl. Oh, so fabulous. Oh, and then I found the most beautiful curtains that just pulled her whole apartment together. And the most stylish new picture frame for the corner. It is just adorable in that place.
Introducing House to Home. Everything for inside and outside your home in one huge store.
And then we found the perfect Ficus Benjamina. Jamina. Oh, whatever.
House to Home, the incredible home decorating superstore.
A lot of colleges offer training programs, but few give you the opportunity to earn a good income while you're in school. MTI College of Business and Technology offers fast-track degree programs that can prepare you for a great job in just 12 months. Better yet, you'll be working in your field while you're finishing your degree. For over 35 years, MTI has provided training for careers in business, legal, and computer technology. For a quicker way to higher pay, call, click, or visit MTI.
After surviving 2 sets of writers, 3 pilots, and 4 Chrissy Snows, Three's Company finally debuted on ABC on March 15, 1977. The show was an instant hit, and the lives of the cast members changed forever. By 1977, its second season, Three's Company was consistently ranking in the Nielsen Top 10.
I'll let you in on a little scoop. Today we found out that the national Nielsen's came in on our first rerun last Thursday, and we were number 3 nationally.
Fans loved the broad physical comedy and racy double entendres.
Yeah, there's nothing a girl likes more than a little tickle on the tummy.
Actor Paul Ainsley played the bartender at the show's hip watering hole, the Regal Beagle.
A lot of it had to do with sex. Who was getting it? Who wasn't getting it? Why weren't they getting it? How could a guy live with 2 girls and not get it from the 2 girls?
ABC paired the show with another brash new series, Soap, on Tuesday nights. Critics lambasted the network for eroding the moral standards of primetime television. Richard Klein played Three's Company's swinging bachelor, Larry Dallas.
The critical response to Three's Company, if indeed these people ever saw more than 1 episode, which they probably hadn't, was to pan the show as being a jiggle show.
Jiggle humor was a thinly veiled reference to Suzanne Summers' ample assets.
When I would do the character of Chrissy, I would get so within that I would lose sight of what my body was doing, which was just so delicious because nothing was ever planned. And I remember jumping back and forth, and when I saw it on screen, my breasts were going back and forth, and I think that's where Queen of the Jiggle started.
Author Chris Mann.
I think a lot of the critics misunderstood the show. I don't think they realized that it was a farce, that the show didn't take itself seriously. It was a silly farce about 3 people living together, and I think the critics made it their whipping boy.
The public's support helped ease the sting of bad reviews.
The critics hated this show because it was a show about nothing, a show about nothing that the public loved and that eventually, kicked everybody out of the water.
But the attacks didn't only come from the outside. Execs at ABC faced the dilemma of airing a wildly successful show that was getting publicity for all the wrong reasons.
Our ratings were just enormous. And, but in spite of that, the network had almost an inferiority complex about the show.
There was a little bit of embarrassment because Three's Company had problems with some conservative watchdog groups and was having problems with some advertisers. So Three's Company became ABC's dark secret, much like Ellen in the 90s.
Because of the uproar, network censors meticulously scrutinized each episode.
They were definitely on our backs all the time. And we didn't have very much muscle until the show really began to score.
At times, the scrutiny reached an absurd level. Writer-producer Kim Weiskopf.
The line as written was, "Hey Tarzan, can I swing from your vine?" And the network says, "No, you absolutely cannot say that." And we understood that. It was one of those situations where you were probably going to trade it off for something. And we said, well, if we can't say vine, what can we say? And in their wisdom, the network said, tree. Tree? "Hi Tarzan, can I swing from your tree?" Fine, we'll put that in. And that's the way it was broadcast.
But the reviews weren't all bad. John Ritter's outrageous physical comedy impressed the critics and his co-stars alike.
He put me away. I mean, he has all the techniques that Milton Berle, Jerry Lewis, Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton rolled into one.
Ritter was a natural. Joyce DeWitt was an experienced comedienne. Suzanne Summers, however, had never done comedy before.
I had never been trained as a comedic actress. I had never been trained for anything.
I thought she was very raw when she first started out. She knew she was raw.
Suzanne credits executive producer Mickey Ross with helping her develop her comic timing.
He taught me to hear the music of comedy.
Producer's assistant, B. Dallas.
They were like father and daughter, and mentor, student, and he realized that he could help her and teach her.
Even though I worked with her privately for some time, she was very fast, and she learned the comedy role very, very fast.
The producers may have worked with Suzanne Summers, but they weren't as collaborative with Joyce DeWitt.
Their interpretation of the character was so narrow in terms of her style and in opposition to what I believed she had to be to make this show work, that after we finished the first 6, I was just sort of praying that, this would disappear from my life and I would never see them again.
DeWitt claims the producers bristled at input from a female actress.
On the first or second day, I would make a suggestion about cutting something or changing something, and they were polite enough to stop talking while I talked. But that was it. That was it. Then they would just go right on and it would be ignored.
It was very much a class system. Here were the actors, here were the writer-producers. And you really didn't want to screw around with that too much, because you could find yourself maybe not working on the series anymore.
I've learned over time that a sitcom set is not a democracy. Not everybody has equal say. They didn't listen to her. They didn't listen to me either.
Nevertheless, Joyce devised a clever method of getting her point across.
I just took John aside one day and I said, if I have a suggestion, I'm going to tell it to you in secret, in private.
And then I'd say, Joyce has a good point and I agree with it.
I don't know if it was John's presentation or if it was because John said them and not Joyce. There's some dispute over that. But when John said them, the producer said, oh, that's a good idea.
As the ratings skyrocketed, stardom quickly overwhelmed the 3 cast members.
No one can ever be prepared for that kind of fame. It was literally overnight. I was one person on Monday, and on Tuesday I was a different person.
John Ritter realized early on that fame could be a double-edged sword.
I was driving over the hill and I heard that Freddie Prinze had put a bullet in his head and killed himself. When those guys were on hiatus, we were doing the pilot of Three's Company, and I was in the star dressing room that Freddie Prinze was. So when I walked in there, I went, well, the answer certainly isn't here. If I'm looking for fulfillment, if I'm looking for satisfaction, if I'm looking for a meaning to life, it is not being the star of a sitcom.
Ritter, DeWitt, and Summers had drastically different reactions to fame.
Suzanne wanted to be a star. John Ritter, I think, really just wanted the laughs. He wanted to do his craft. And Joyce DeWitt was so embarrassed from fame and shy that she didn't want to do any publicity really at all.
All of a sudden I was a public figure, someone that was recognizable, and everything about your life changes then. And being a very private person, there was a lot of putting the brakes on for me. It was like, wait a minute.
I remember John and Joyce just staying the way they were. I mean, they were excited, but I don't remember the hoopla around them as much as around Suzanne.
Three's Company gave Suzanne Summers her first brush with celebrity.
It's an interesting new hazard, you know.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I think that's what you work for all this time.
For Suzanne, there was no turning back.
Suzanne took the first 6 weeks' pay and went to Jay Bernstein, who was representing Farrah Fawcett Majors at the time and who was the biggest thing on TV, and she said, I want you to make me as visible as Farrah.
It wasn't just she was famous, she was a phenomena. And once I had a taste of success, there is a businesswoman that lives inside of me, and I thought, how far can we go with this?
Suzanne's former manager, Jay Bernstein.
She had such enthusiasm, and when I said, let me think about it, she didn't give me much time to think about it. She was at me every day. And she just said, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it.
Bernstein signed the eager young actress and set about maximizing her exposure.
I took Suzanne Summers' career to the next level because I didn't care how much money she made on Three's Company. I wanted to make certain that she had a foolproof career, that if she was going to fail, it would take her 5 years to do it.
Chrissy dolls, posters, notebooks, and memorabilia soon materialized, and Suzanne found her life being pulled in new and exciting directions.
There were so many scripts that came in that I started piling them up on the stairs in terms of priority of what I was going to read next. I don't know what I turned away. I don't know what I turned down. It didn't really matter. There's so much coming at us, all of us.
Summers' personal life followed her career upswing. During the second season, Suzanne's longtime boyfriend, Canadian talk show host Alan Hamill, proposed marriage. The couple was married at their home in Malibu, and Hamill joined Bernstein in guiding Suzanne's career.
I felt in the beginning that I was making all the career decisions and that he was there with Suzanne as part of the team. He let me do it until the time came where he felt he could do what I was doing.
When the E! True Hollywood Story continues, the happy family breaks up.
So I said, I don't want to do it. Well, what do you mean? Everybody wants to do their own show.
And later, the laughter stops.
Was there a renegotiation ploy going on? Yeah. Was there broken ribs? Yeah.
It was like a fairy story gone wrong.
They are the stories that make you look, make you wonder, make you feel.
She just didn't have any love.
They are the stories that shock you, move you, leave you wanting more.
He really looked like he was at death's door.
They are the stories that can only be the true Hollywood story.
There were no rules.
Experience the greatest true Hollywood stories ever told. Every night at 8, all September long, only on E!
Being a dance teacher really takes a toll on your skin, on your body.
Dove knows beautiful skin is healthy skin.
After a long day of dancing, my skin craves nourishment.
Dove Nutrium replenishes essential nutrients.
It makes your skin so soft.
She was engineered by science to be human perfection. But Fridays this fall, she'll face science's newest creations. Not perfect, and definitely not human. From Academy Award winner James Cameron comes the season premiere of the hit series Dark Angel on its new night, followed by the premiere of Pasadena, Friday, September 21st on Fox.
They're not just low, they're ultra low.
hips have never looked hotter. How low can you go? The only thing lower is the price. You gotta get this look. Only at Old Navy.
Lots of places offer upgrades. Usually you spend a little more, you get a little more. But in Gateway Country, it's different. You get a lot more. And right now it's free. When you buy a Gateway Essential 950C featuring the Intel Celeron processor, you get an extra large monitor plus a CD burner. That's 2 big upgrades, all for just $7.99. Now who could beat that? Who'd even try? Offer ends September 9th, so stop by or call today.
Capture the light. Capture the glow. Capture a whole new way to brighten your skin. Introducing Revlon Skin Lights.
It offers 4 tons of hauling capacity. Has 3 rows of seating. And most amazingly, is quite easy to carry. Announcing 0% financing on every single 2001 Lincoln, low lease rates, and Lincoln will even make your first payment. Navigator from Lincoln.
Contact lens solutions have come a long way, but you still had to rub. Well, today OptiFree has a solution so advanced you don't need to rub. It's No Rub Express, the first multi-purpose that cleans, disinfects, and even removes protein without rubbing. No Rub Express is clinically proven to remove more protein without rubbing than the leading solution with rubbing, yet is gentle enough for sensitive eyes. So switch to No Rub Express, the future of lens care.
Her charm seduced him.
I wish to explain.
You behave as though you've never seen a naked woman.
Never one quite so naked.
Her passion inspired him.
He wants to be a musketeer.
I need your help.
Anything.
But it was their love
I will kill that which he holds most dear.
that would save them.
I'm coming back for you.
The Musketeer, rated PG-13, at theaters Friday.
Kahlua drinks to go in your favorite Kahlua flavors. They're pre-mixed, so you can pour yourself into the party.
This portion of E! is brought to you by Kahlua Drinks to Go in party-friendly 4-packs. Kahlua, anything goes.
After Three's Company premiered in 1977, public support won out over negative reviews to create a smash hit. The co-stars became media sensations, but jealousy and greed began to rip apart all they had built. The third season of Three's Company saw a host of changes behind the scenes. First, veteran television director Dave Powers was brought in to beef up the broad physical comedy.
I would tell the cast that this is a play. It's in a proscenium, it's a play. Don't worry about cameras.
When Dave Powers came in, it became more of a physical farce, more farce than Bedroom. We can still have it be provocative and risque, but the emphasis is on the relationship of the characters and the physical comedy.
Powers' specialty was shooting quickly to preserve the spontaneity. Co-star Richard Klein.
We would start the 8 o'clock taping and be out of makeup by 9:15. And in our little, Toyotas.
On February 14, 1978, Three's Company reached the pinnacle of success by becoming the #1 rated show in America. John Ritter noticed a change in attitude from network executives.
The network, would come to run-throughs like this. Only till we were a top 10, then they were like, "Hi, how can we serve you?" Mwah, nice backside.
The heat on the show was palpable. The week the show became #1, the cast received an unexpected honor.
We get the phone call that they're going to put us on the cover of Newsweek. Newsweek. A sitcom on the cover of Newsweek.
The cover shoot was a disaster, however.
When the photographer showed up, Suzanne was the center focus, and John and Joyce were being asked to pose around her, kind of like as atmosphere.
The guy kept putting me in the middle and putting Joyce down here and John up there. And there was tension on this shoot like you couldn't believe.
It became clear that they had an agenda, and it wasn't an agenda that John or I were comfortable with, and it was a very uncomfortable experience.
I called Don Nickel over and I said, I took him behind the set. I said, what is going on? I said, it's like they're trying to feature me, but it's creating this horrible thing here, and I'm very uncomfortable, and I'm on the verge of tears, and Joyce is mad at me, and John's mad at me. And he said, they're not trying to feature you, they're just getting different configurations.
Nevertheless, the shoot was ruined. Newsweek's cover, assembled under the provocative headline, Sex and TV, was eventually pasted together using existing publicity stills. The Newsweek experience exposed a raw nerve. Who was the real star of Three's Company?
John was the lead, Suzanne became the celebrity, and Joyce was the second billed actor. And when Suzanne became this magazine cover girl, I think some people perceived that she was the star of the show. And the way the show was written and billed, that wasn't the case.
Just 6 days after the contentious photo shoot, Three's Company won the 1978 People's Choice Award for Favorite Comedy Series. John Ritter and Suzanne Summers captured individual awards for Favorite Male and Favorite Female in a new series. Most of America loved the show. The religious right did not. One of the most vocal critics was a Southern minister named Donald Wildman. Writer-producer George Burdett.
Oh my God, remember the Reverend Wildman? And he would say, oh, we can't allow this sort of thing to be on TV. I mean, we had such problems.
Donald Wildman left his ministry to start the National Federation for Decency. And as we all know, Three's Company was probably the most indecent show on TV in history.
Wildman's campaign managed to convince at least one sponsor, Sears, to cancel its advertising. John Ritter decided to fight back.
Well, I went on Dinah Shore, Mike Douglas and Tonight Show, and I just said, if those people who like the shows buy 2 of everything to counteract these guys who hate us.
For the most part, Wildman's protest fell on deaf ears. Three's Company was the #1 rated show on television, so ABC decided to capitalize on that success.
Three's Company was so successful that ABC wanted to do what the British people had done with Man About the House, spin-off The Ropers. And so they approached Norman and Audra wanted to go on and be the star of their own show. Norman didn't want that.
So I said, I don't want to do it. Oh, what do you mean? Everybody wants to do their own show, I said, well, I don't. Because this is a big hit, and it's going to run for 6 or 8 or 9 years or something like that. Let me run that out.
Fell reluctantly agreed to do the spin-off on one condition. If the Ropers didn't last a full season, he could return to Three's Company. Talented veterans Patty McCormick and Jeffrey Tambor joined Fell and Lindley, but the Ropers never found a solid audience.
I think the Ropers worked wonderfully as a B plot on Three's Company, but to have the whole show revolve around that one joke that they weren't getting intimate with each other, eventually wore a little thin.
Norman Fell maintains a different perspective.
They put us in on Sunday, and I went up to New York when I found out that it was Sunday, and I said, what are you doing to us? You're killing us.
After a season and a half of declining ratings, The Ropers was canceled.
I said, okay, now I can go back to Three's Company, and the producers and actors said, we don't need you now. I said, yeah, but my deal is that I can go back. They said, no, because you went past the guarantee.
With the Ropers out of the picture, the producers created Ralph Furley, a wacky new landlord to stir up trouble. The question was, who would play him?
We looked and looked and looked, and we wanted a really good comedian to play this. We wanted someone like Don Knotts, we kept saying, someone like Don, and then, boing, why don't we get Don Knotts?
As luck would have it, the legendary co-star of The Andy Griffith Show was ready to return to series television.
My manager called and said they wanted me to come and take Norman Fell's place, that he was leaving the show, to do a spinoff. And they made an offer. I was thrilled.
Knotts eagerly slipped into Mr. Furley's psychedelic wardrobe.
Mr. Furley was a wonderfully fun character to do because you could just go as far out as you wanted.
This baby will cut those cuffs like a hot knife through butter.
Handling the show's breakneck shooting pace was a different matter.
When I started, it was a 5-day week. And so the kids finally said they only wanted to do 4 days. And that scared me a little right there. I thought, geez, I don't know if I can get this together in 4 days, but I adjusted to it.
Knotts wasn't the only newcomer in the 4th season. Ann Wedgeworth joined the cast as Lana Shields, a sexy divorcee with her eye on Jack Tripper.
Lana was like kind of a force of nature, I guess.
Unfortunately, Lana would have the shortest run of any character in the show's history.
She's so beautiful. She's so sexually appealing. When you've got this guy, Jack Tripper, who you've already, portrayed as, humping lampposts, and he's refusing this gorgeous woman, it seemed a little false.
I mean, this is like, how many times can we do this joke, So they started to cut me down and cut me down and cut me down.
Until finally, they cut Wedgeworth out. Executive producer Bernie West.
It didn't work as well as we had hoped and we had thought. So that was it.
Three's Company breezed through its 4th season on top of the ratings. But Suzanne Summers' career outside of the show was beginning to cause problems. According to Suzanne, her manager Jay Bernstein had a bad relationship with ABC president Fred Silverman.
I didn't realize that Fred Silverman had a vendetta against Jay Bernstein, and that when Jay pulled Farrah from Charlie's Angels, that he said, relative to Jay Bernstein, let's smoke him out. Let's not let any of his clients do anything at our networks.
Bernstein alleges that ABC wouldn't hire Summers for anything outside of Three's Company, so he came up with a revolutionary idea.
I went to CBS and I said, how would you like to have a deal with Suzanne Summers? All of Suzanne Summers' movies for television can be with you, CBS. All the specials she does, she can host with you. And then when Three's Company is over, she can do a series with you.
So it's announced in the trades that I've made this unheard of deal with CBS while I'm still an ABC star. And Fred Silverman called me and screamed at me. How could you do this? I gave you your start. How could you do it? And I said, I tried to call you. And he said, well, you could have tried harder. And he hung up very angrily.
Suzanne was also making a feature film, and that too caused problems.
And then I did a movie with Donald Sutherland that ran 2 weeks long, and the Three's Company start date was moved 1 season by 2 weeks, and that was another thing that seemed to rub everybody the wrong way.
Summers' tardiness exacerbated an increasingly tense situation on the Three's Company set. Script supervisor Carol Summers.
As time wore on, people just got angry that they felt very manipulated by her, and nobody knew what she was doing, and they just started getting angry because they wanted to work.
Summers made another stunning move in the summer of 1980. She fired her manager, Jay Bernstein.
Jay always said to me, I'm going to get you up there where the air is rarefied, you'll become deified, and then I'll become nullified. And in essence, that's what happened.
Stepping into Bernstein's place was Suzanne's husband, Alan Hamill.
I think by the time Suzanne had become a very big star and Alan took over managing, that's when the problem started to come about, because the producers felt that he had too much of an interest in the business side of things without knowing too much about it.
When the E! True Hollywood story continues, Three's Company becomes a war zone.
The last show that I did, John and Joyce did not talk. The last full show that I did, they did not talk to me at all.
Are we on?
We're on.
Is this the mic? Yes. Kim Cattrall, I love you so much. It's a fabulous
Hello, Larry. Long time no see.
You know me?
Like a book, Larry. How about a Hebrew National hot dog?
Take credit cards?
I take credit for everything. This is some of my best work. Fresh, kosher beef, perfectly seasoned, nothing artificial.
It's divine.
Thank you. Now take one over to your wife.
My wife? I wish.
Trust me on this, Larry.
Hebrew National. Better because we answer to a higher authority.
I have a hot dog and it's for you.
Need contact lenses? You could. Get in your car, drive to your eye doctor, wait in line, pay twice as much, wait a week, drive back, pick them up. Or call 1-800-CONTACTS. We deliver. You save.
Chairman, members of the board, your new headquarters.
All imported hops give Michelob Light a smooth, satisfying taste you won't find in an ordinary beer. Beer or Michelob Light?
The JCPenney Labor Day sale. So good. Nothing will get you down. Save 20 to 50% store-wide. Plus, save an extra 10% using your Pennies card. It's all inside. Smile on. JCPenney.
I don't know what my mother calls me more often. Jimmy or...
You must be hungry.
At her table, there's always a helping of this, a taste of that, and you get as much as you want. Which is how Olive Garden brings you their never-ending pasta bowl. Have Alfredo with penne. Or how about bolognese meat sauce with fettuccine? You pick your homemade sauces, you pick your pastas, you get all you want. It's all delicious, and it's just $7.95. Tonight I'm having it with my brother. Mom calls him...
Did you eat yet?
Olive Garden. When you're here, you're family.
No can, no fork, no grill. It's the easiest way to a juicy grilled meal your cat can't resist. New from Whiskas.
I do enjoy the pleasures of the grill.
Yeah, I can see that. Whiskas, what cats want.
There are paper towels that drip, and there are Bounty towels that won't. Bounty picks up faster, absorbs more, and traps these spills in better. They get the job done the first time. Bounty, the only quilted quicker picker-upper.
Want a job that makes you happy? Post your resume now. Monster.com.
You the monster.
When I used to take antacids, I always thought of that kid in school who ate weird things, like chalk. All those other antacids taste so chalky. Well, things have changed. Now there's Surpass Antacid Chewing Gum from Wrigley Healthcare. It tastes great and keeps working long after you stop chewing. My heartburn's gone, and Surpass still tastes great. Oh, honey, don't eat that. New Surpass Antacid. Great big relief. Great little gum.
Experience the greatest true Hollywood stories ever told.
There were no rules.
Every night at 8, all September long, only on
Irene's Fashions at Large specializes in women's apparel sizes 18 to 60, casual and sportswear, career fashions, and evening wear. Shop Irene's for great selection in a comfy atmosphere. Irene's Fashions at Large, 2939 Arden Way.
Looking for a real power trip? Chevy's moving the 2001 metal. 3,000 cash back or 0 APR on Chevy Silverado half-ton extended cab. That's right, tough guy. Big cash back or low APR. We'll give you the power. The question is, are you going to use it? Make your money count now at your local Chevy dealer.
Irene's Fashions at Large specializes in women's apparel sizes 18 to 60, casual and sportswear, career fashions, and evening wear. Shop Irene's for great selection in a comfy atmosphere. Irene's Fashions at Large, 2939 Arden Way.
Whether it was real or perceived, Suzanne Somers felt that she was the star of Three's Company, and she started to act like it. As her ambition grew, a showdown on the set became inevitable. By 1980, Suzanne Somers, John Ritter, and Joyce DeWitt were earning substantial weekly salaries.
When we saw we had a hit show, we tore up their contracts and gave them new contracts with quite a lot more money. By the 5th season, Suzanne Somers and Joyce DeWitt were to get each $30,000 an episode.
With 22 episodes taped each season, that meant DeWitt and Somers were earning more than $650,000 each year. John Ritter was pulling down close to $1 million. Nevertheless, in the middle of the season, Suzanne and her manager husband, Alan Hamill, decided to renegotiate.
I'm certainly a star of this show, bringing a lot to it. I'd like to be paid what men comparable in my business were being paid.
She quoted a number of other actors that were getting top money. Alan Alda, Carol O'Connor, people like that.
Alan Alda of MASH and Carol O'Connor of All in the Family were each making in excess of $200,000 per episode, but they were clearly the stars of their respective shows. Producer's assistant, Bea Dallas.
If you're going to say, well, who's the star, if you want to name somebody, it was John Ritter. The show could not have gone on without John.
Somers and Hamill strongly disagreed. On July 24, 1980, Hamill met with executive producer Ted Bergman and representatives from ABC.
In that meeting, Alan said, you know, Suzanne's brought a lot to the show, and we would like this much money, or we would like a piece of the back end.
I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll give you $5,000 more per episode. And Hamill acted like I had insulted him. He said, that's crazy, that's nothing. I said, well, what is it that you want? And he said, I shall never forget this as long as I live, we want $150,000 an episode and 10% ownership of the program. And I started to laugh.
Somers felt the chips were stacked against her from the very beginning.
My lawyer had some unfinished business with an ABC lawyer. My lawyer had just done Laverne and Shirley's renegotiation. That ABC lawyer said to my lawyer, you got me before, you're not going to get me again.
Suzanne's husband and manager, Alan Hamill.
They were intent on setting an example. ABC, because they looked at this as an opportunity to save money on renegotiations in the future, because they had renegotiated with Laverne and Shirley, and now it was Suzanne, and they really wanted to stop it.
Others put the blame on Suzanne.
She was greedy, and there was no reason for it. I mean, Alan Hamill said, there were no negotiations, there was nothing. They just said no. You know. Well, when someone comes in and demands things, you know, everybody got riled up.
I think they were willing to negotiate, but nowhere near what Suzanne and Alan were hoping for.
Executive producer Ted Bergman explains why.
We have a parity arrangement between Joyce and Suzanne, and if we give Suzanne $150,000, we're going to have to give Joyce $150,000. And we also have an arrangement with John that he gets more than each of the girls. So let's say we have to give John $200,000. That adds up to $500,000 before we even write a script.
Somers claims she was aware of the parity agreement and that Ritter and DeWitt knew she was planning to renegotiate.
I had said to them at one of the last tapings the season before, my contract is up next year, when I come back, and I'm going to go for big money or a piece of the back end. And if I get it, you guys get it.
That might have happened about renegotiation. None of that matters. I'll go renegotiate, you go renegotiate. But the fact is that And then let's come back to if you get yes or no, we come back and play.
Joyce DeWitt denies Summers ever discussed renegotiating.
I think it's an extraordinary unkindness on her part to make that up. I really do. It's a terrible thing to say about somebody when it isn't true.
Suzanne could afford to play hardball with her producers because of her deal with CBS. Former manager Jay Bernstein.
If I knew I had a deal at CBS to do another, I think it was 3 pilots for a series, I would feel a little stronger about walking in and renegotiating.
The contractual blow-up was the first in a series of events that eroded the relationship between Suzanne Somers and the Three's Company cast and crew. Director Dave Powers.
The timing of it is what really made things fall apart, and that was trying to do a mid-season negotiation with ABC.
As the 5th season progressed into the summer, production was delayed due to an actors' strike. When shooting resumed in October, Suzanne Somers was a no-show.
I didn't come to work the day after I'd done The Tonight Show because I broke my ribs on The Tonight Show doing a dance.
The facts of this incident remain clouded in controversy. Suzanne's appearance on The Tonight Show was September 19th, almost 3 weeks before her return to the Three's Company set. Hospital records indicate Somers was admitted to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center on September 20th, but from September 23rd through October 8th, she performed her nightclub act at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. According to arbitration documents, Somers claimed she was in so much pain during these shows that she needed a back brace. Because of the contentious contract negotiations, the producers were suspicious of the injury, prompting associate producer Wendy Blair to contact Three's Company costumer Len Marcus.
Wendy's question to me, and there was a lawyer there at that time too, was, did you ever see Suzanne in a brace? And my answer to her was, I was never in the room when Suzanne changed, so I don't know whether she had a brace on or not. And that was not the truth. I mean, I had seen Suzanne, and she did not have a brace on. So I lied for Suzanne because Suzanne was that special to me.
The producers also contacted the costume designer who worked with Somers in Vegas.
The wardrobe lady said, oh no, she didn't have a brace on. Unfortunately, I think the story got back to Suzanne differently, and she's not spoken to me since.
That Sunday, October 19th, Marcia Yanchuk, Suzanne's assistant, called to say that Suzanne had re-injured her rib and wouldn't be in for the taping that day.
We asked her to go see the doctor that they went to for shots, whatever they needed, Dr. Yulee, and she didn't want to go. So she held us up there and holed up in her house and, just said she couldn't come to work.
The episode was hastily rewritten, with most of Chrissy's lines reassigned to Don Knotts.
It turned out to be a sort of a windfall for me in a way, because the writers had been writing this great stuff for her that was all the goofy stuff. And then when they didn't have her, they started giving me the goofy stuff.
Somers was due back on the set Tuesday, October 21st, to tape the next episode. But again, she was a no-show. This time, Suzanne's absence forced producers to cancel the taping. The question hung in the air. Was Suzanne's injury real?
It was obvious to us at that point that this was a negotiating ploy that she and Hamill were pulling.
My lawyer said, they think you're renegotiating. Let's let them think that. Was there a renegotiation ploy going on? Yeah. Was there broken ribs? Yeah.
The show's producers decided to take drastic action.
We told the ABC brass that we wanted to cancel her for breach of contract. And ABC said, you can't do that. It might affect the ratings. You got to keep her on the show.
After a week's hiatus, the cast, crew, and Suzanne returned to the set Friday, October 30th. Relationships were strained. Suzanne discussed the tension on a 1981 Donahue
I
appearance.
talked to the last show that I did. John and Joyce did not talk. The last full show that I did, they did not talk to me at all. And I, before the show, was so upset. So I talked to John Ritter and I said, you know, we are professionals. I understand that you're angry with me, but there are two sides to every story. And he just looked at me and walked away. I wish I had a better answer. I don't understand the anger.
John defended her for a long time, until the missed episodes and things that started to hurt the rest of us, the rest of the production. Then he turned, and it ended up where, you know, people were not speaking.
The problem she was having with the producers and the network spilled over into the rehearsal hall because she wasn't there. And we were getting two scripts, a blue one with her and a pink one without her.
Writer-producer Kim Weiskopf.
Now we were starting to have to prepare to take her out of scripts, to throw out a few scripts where she was crucial, which was actually most of them.
Suzanne requested to be excused from rehearsals on Saturday, November 1st, to attend her son's soccer game. She promised to return the next day, ready to rehearse. But that Saturday, Alan Hamel called executive producer Mickey Ross to say Summers would not be returning because of the hostile work environment. Hamel was ready to discuss money and points. Ross declined.
Mickey took the stance that I was trying to ruin their show and created an atmosphere of mob fury on the set. And it became an impossible situation for me to ever be understood.
Suzanne Summers' third absence proved to be the final straw.
We were worried that she was going to hold the show hostage again and not show up for tapings. So it was decided to use her in a way that she could least harm the show.
Coming up, Suzanne Summers gets demoted.
The whole thing was to humiliate, to demean, to humiliate, put me in my place.
Get your TV buzz with Totally Tube, E's ultimate source for the fall season. On TV, see new shows behind the scenes and check out all the new lineups. Online, Q&A with Primetime's fresh faces or sneak a peek at the big debuts. That's Totally Tube on TV this Thursday, September 6th at 7. Then log on to www.eonline.com and click Totally Tube. On TV and online, E has television covered.
Hey, look, a tour. Should we do it? Yeah. Okay. Do you need film? No, I'm okay.
New Max Versatility Plus is Kodak's most versatile film ever. It even works in fast action. While other films may blur, you get crystal clear pictures more often with Versatility Plus.
I should have tried your Kodak film.
Share the moment, share life.
Who's grilling America's favorite sirloin steaks? Well, sink your teeth into our perfectly seasoned house sirloin and you'll know. It's got to be Applebee's. Eatin' good, eatin' good.
They're not just low, they're ultra low. Hips have never looked hotter. How low can you go? The only thing lower is the price. You gotta get this look. Only at Old Navy.
Tens of thousands of people continue to buy the Oldsmobile Alero. Is it because of our special cashback offers? Is it because of the 5-year, 60,000-mile GM protection plan? Or is it because the Alero is so fun to drive? Yes. Are you in the market? Get in an Oldsmobile, backed by GM. And for a limited time, qualified buyers can get 0.9% APR financing.
Lots of places offer upgrades. Usually you spend a little more, you get a little more. But in Gateway Country, it's different. You get a lot more. And right now it's free. When you buy a Gateway Essential 950C featuring the Intel Celeron processor, you get an extra large monitor plus a CD burner. That's 2 big upgrades, all for just $7.99. Now who could beat that? Who'd even try? Offer ends September 9th, so stop by or call today.
Capture the light. Capture the glow. Capture a whole new way to brighten your skin. Introducing Revlon Skin Lights.
Everybody, join the club.
Make a tuna snacker, a peanut butter stacker, a tasty chili scoop. Join the club. Cover it with cheese, or plain if you please. Soup of tomato soup. Join the club.
It's Keebler Club crackers. Light, buttery taste that works magic with dips, salads, everything. Life's tastier when you join the club.
Club's taste makes it great.
Irresistible.
Join the club.
Rated M for mature.
Twisted Metal. Black.
You have new mail. You have new mail. Please receive your new mail. Please receive your new mail. You have new mail. You have new mail. Please receive your new mail.
Connect with yourself. Achieve New Balance.
Drop everything for the full Monty, Broadway's musical comedy smash. Call Telecharge and let yourself go.
In the fall of 1980, Suzanne Somers went to war with ABC and her Three's Company producers. Somers wanted more money. The producers wouldn't renegotiate. Production ground to a halt, friends became enemies, and the executives were faced with the gut-wrenching decision of what to do with their rebellious actress. On Monday, November 3rd, 1980, Somers arrived for rehearsal at the studio after having missed several days of work. She was, in fact, written out of the script. Production executive George Sunga.
I was the one that had to go down and say to Suzanne and Alan, I'm sorry, but I have to ask you to leave because John will not perform while you're still in the building. And since she wasn't going to perform, there was no reason for her at this point to even be there.
My feeling was, what is the best thing for the show? And her feeling was, you know, what's the best thing for me?
On November 6th, the producers called new ABC president Tony Thomopoulos to discuss Suzanne's future. Executive producer Bernie West.
The network said, don't lose her yet, keep her on the show. The name is very important.
The decision was made to keep Suzanne on the show, but in the smallest way possible.
Mickey was the one I remember came up with the idea she has to go home, be with her sick mother, and it'll be a 1-minute phone call in the tag.
ABC agreed to the plan, but Three's Company, by definition, couldn't exist with only 2 roommates. A frantic search went out for a new woman to step into Chrissy's shoes. Author Chris Mann.
They wanted a blonde who could absorb some of the scripts that had already been written that included the Chrissy character.
Actress Jenny Lee Harrison was one of many who auditioned for the coveted part.
My agent calls up and says, oh, they're looking for a girl to replace Suzanne Somers and they want to see you. And I said, nah, I ain't going. What a waste of time. Me, replacing Suzanne Somers.
21-year-old Jenny Lee, an ex-cheerleader for the Los Angeles Rams, had almost no previous acting experience. But she was young, athletic, and beautiful.
I think initially the desire was to create another Suzanne, if possible. And Jenny Lee seemed to fit that mold.
On November 7th, Jenny Lee read for executive producers Mickey Ross and Bernie West. 5 days later, they took Harrison to ABC.
I found out this months later, but when I walked in for the audition, I tripped. And that's why I got the part.
Jenny Lee came on board as Chrissy's clumsy but well-meaning cousin, Cindy Snow.
Cindy Snow was the klutzy, bumpkin cousin of Chrissy Snow, who just came in from the farm to experience city life.
Jenny Lee knew almost immediately that she had stepped into a tense situation.
It was a lot of pressure for a young girl, big shoes to fill, and I was trying to please a lot of people. I had producers, co-stars, everything else just staring me down and saying, okay, you know, you're the new show. It was tough.
Costume designer Len Marcus.
The world was watching and holding its breath to see what was going to happen with this #1 show. You know, it was very important to everyone.
Making the transition more difficult was the specter of Suzanne, who still had to report to work each week to tape her 1-minute tag scenes.
Oh, I'm so sorry I can't be there.
They'd make me come pick up the script the day before, meeting the director in a private office. I wasn't allowed to go to the set or to the rehearsal hall. So the whole thing was to humiliate, to demean, to humiliate, put me in my place.
Director Dave Powers was Suzanne's only contact on the show during this time.
It was really ugly, and there were a lot of tears from her and from the rest of the cast. It was not a happy time.
Script supervisor Carol Summers.
At that point, the actors didn't want to work with her, so I was taken into an announce booth, and when Chrissy would be talking on the phone to somebody, that person was me.
I would sometimes break down in tears, and what I knew was there was a monitor feed to every dressing room and to every office in the studio. There is. That's just the way television studios are. I knew they were all watching, all of them. It was too compelling not to.
It just got so strange and so out of hand, and it was all new ground. I mean, we'd never seen this treatment. Usually an actor is fired, but she was sort of kept around for the end of the season, and ABC didn't really want to fire her, and it was just really a horrible, embarrassing time for everyone.
Suzanne refused to take the humiliation lying down.
Suzanne was trying to get her job back. She had been reduced to this insignificant part, and she went out in the press to air her grievances.
They have me come in on Thursdays to pick up the script in a private room. All I do is walk in, they hand it to me, and I walk out. On Tuesdays, they have me come in the back door. They have a guard placed in the hall. They have guards placed in front of my dressing room, which they've now given to John Ritter. I'm allowed to use it for 20 minutes. They sneak me into a set that is built behind the set. I'm not allowed to go on the Three's Company set. I have to do my 1 minute, and the guards stand there until I'm out of the studio, then they bring the other actors in. Don't ask me why.
Producer's assistant, Bea Dallas, challenges many of Suzanne's allegations.
Nobody had a permanent dressing room. There weren't that many of them. And John would always give his up to the girls, to Joyce and Suzanne, so no one ever took anything away from her.
Despite the animosity, Ritter felt the dispute would ultimately be resolved.
I assumed it would be over any day. I mean, it would all take care of itself, and then she'd come back.
But after the press pounced on the story, the war of words escalated and made the possibility of reconciliation unlikely.
You can't go on Coast to Coast TV and ask your fans to blackball the show as a negotiation ploy to try and force the hand of the other side to give you what you want and think that the other side's going to ask you to keep playing.
When all the thing hit the press, Joyce and I and the rest of us were real quiet when they would ask us about Suzanne and everything. And I really, loved Suzanne. I was like heartbroken that these battle lines were being drawn.
The Suzanne Somers controversy had a noticeable effect on the show's popularity.
The ratings fell out of the top 10, which had only happened like twice when Suzanne was on the show. We
got the feeling that the audience missed Suzanne. And I think something went out of the show when Suzanne left. There's no denying that.
As the relationship between Suzanne and the producers deteriorated, the battle lines moved beyond just the set of Three's Company. As part of her Las Vegas act, Suzanne used outtakes from the show and performed some of her songs in character as Chrissy.
When she went to Las Vegas to do her act at the MGM Grand, a couple of us went up there because we had heard she was going to use the Chrissy character, which everyone felt very strongly that she did not have a right to use.
The Chrissy character was created by NRW, very definitely. And as such, it was the property of the show. And for her to take it and use it elsewhere was, you know, like anybody taking a literary property that didn't belong to them.
The debate raged. Who created the Chrissy character?
I'm the one who turned her feet in. I'm the one who lifted her shoulders up. I'm the one who gave her the stance. Nobody did that.
Writer-producer Kim Weisskopf.
Who created Chrissy Snow? Well, the character was written, and the character developed, and everyone participates in it. The writers, the producers, the actor, certainly. So you can't really say I or you created a character.
But the producers threatened legal action if Suzanne continued to portray Chrissy in her act.
And then all of a sudden I get cease and desist, intent to sue. You cannot do this character on television. You cannot do this character on stage. You cannot do this character. You cannot wear your hair that way.
Suzanne did remove all references to Chrissy from her act. Then she responded with litigation of her own. In February of 1981, Summers filed an arbitration suit against her producers.
Suzanne was asking for about $2 million, $1 million for being written out of 3 different episodes, and about $1 million for damages to her career that she felt that this dispute had caused.
Suzanne's husband and manager, Alan Hamill.
Once we got into it, I realized this was an error. You know, we're sitting here fighting over money, and it was a substantial amount of money, but it wasn't going to change anyone's lifestyle.
After 2 months of testimony, the arbitrator awarded Suzanne $30,000 for one missed episode for which she had not been paid. All other rulings favored the producers.
When he came down with that ruling that it would cost $30,000 to dispose of this arbitration, we readily agreed it was worth $30,000 to be through with it, which we were.
On April 2, 1981, ABC announced that Suzanne Summers would not be returning for the 6th season of Three's Company. Suzanne read about her firing in the newspaper. She was now free to pursue her series at CBS, but the dispute continued to follow her.
I tried to do the series deal at CBS. I kept getting cease and desist, intent to sue lawsuits from the Nichols, Ross, and West production company that if I were to do a character that walked like, talked like, dressed like, in any way, shape, or form, reminded anyone of Chrissy Snow, that they would sue me. So that made CBS very nervous, and they watered down what I was doing.
And so after 2 pilots that never went off, they paid her for the remaining 11 episodes, and not one show ever aired.
Despite her meteoric rise, Suzanne Summers effectively disappeared from network television for more than a decade. Former manager Jay Bernstein.
That's what she found out when she was off the show, that once you're cold, you know, the only way you get hot is in the shower.
Coming up, another roommate bites the dust.
I think we expected too much of Jenny Lee.
Same dramas.
Dirty, frightened, paranoid.
New Time. The E! True Hollywood Story. Now at its new time, 8 o'clock every night, only on E!
Is the IRS ruining your life? Are IRS penalties and interest compounding daily? Stop the cycle now.
Hello, I'm John Harris, president of J.K. Harris & Company, the nation's largest tax representation firm. Our former IRS agents have over 500 years of experience inside the IRS. They know how to settle your IRS debt for pennies on the dollar.
Call the IRS experts at J.K. Harris now for your free confidential tax settlement analysis. Toll free, 800-691-9045.
260 horsepower Acura CL Type S.
Kahlua drinks to go in your favorite Kahlua flavors. They're pre-mixed, so you can pour yourself into the party.
The JCPenney Labor Day sale. So good, nothing will get you down. Save 20 to 50% store-wide. Plus, save an extra 10% using your Pennies card. It's all inside. Smile on. JCPenney.
It's very late. Time is running out. The clock is ticking down. You have a paper due.
Come to Questia.com. The world's largest online library allows you to access entire books for all your research. With new version 2.0, it's faster and easier to use. Don't get yourself into a cold sweat. Subscribe now and write better papers faster. AOL keyword Questia.
New faster acting Dawn with flash sets. It powers through tough grease at a speed no other brand can touch. New faster acting Dawn. Get grease out of your way sooner.
Now on video. Take a trip. Here it comes! Take a bite.
I feel funny!
There's adventure around every corner.
He's absolutely bonkers.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory on video cassette and DVD. Rated G.
Jared's always been an inspiration. Now it seems a lot of people are joining the team.
Feeling fine, it's a great time. We're a Subway family now. We love Jared, the Subway's taste. Come and join us, it's not too late.
Subway has 7 delicious sandwiches with just 6 grams of fat or less, including our new tasty honey mustard turkey with cucumber, with just 4 grams of fat.
The only thing that's missing is you. Subway, eat fresh.
Hello, I'm Joan Rivers.
I'm so excited to be a part of a show like this.
You look fabulous. I always look fabulous. Yeah, right.
We needed an outdoor lamp.
For the party?
Yeah. So we went to this new place called House to Home. We found the cutest little moon lamp.
And a table.
Ooh, and a patio table to put the lamp on. Napkins, placemats. Oh, and these darling tiki lights for atmosphere.
And a big honkin' barbecue for the party tonight. This is the dance floor here.
Introducing House to Home. Everything for inside and outside your home in one huge store.
Now we have the best looking balcony in the building.
Do we have enough chairs? Oh, we're gonna need more chairs.
House to Home, the incredible home decorating superstore.
Is it fair to say you don't like to be pressured, especially from a car dealer? Then it's fair to say you're going to love the new Jackson Ford Mercury. We just don't do pressure. Every customer is a guest in our home. When you buy a car from us, it's a big deal, not just a sale. If you break down on a Sunday, can you call your car dealer? Because you can call us. We're here. Are we really that different? Let us prove it. Make one trip to the new Jackson Ford Mercury in Martell. Chances are you'll be back year after year.
Suzanne Somers' public power struggle with the producers of Three's Company resulted in her demotion and subsequent firing in 1981. The show continued, but the new roommates had problems of their own. As the Suzanne Somers renegotiation drama played itself out in late 1980, Jenny Lee Harrison stepped in as the new roommate. But her character, Cindy Snow, didn't evoke the sexual tension that the show needed to survive. Writer-producer George Burdett.
We've got to get someone who is sexy. Let John get back to that leering self of his.
My character, again, was not the character to tell sex jokes. So there was no sexual innuendo going on. The producers were worried about that because they thought, you know, we need to keep this sex thing up.
Director Dave Powers.
When I look back on it, we were all looking for another Chrissy. I think we expected too much of Jenny Lee.
It was decided that Jenny Lee would stay on in a limited role, But for the second time in 2 years, the producers embarked on an extensive search for a new blonde roommate.
We searched around for someone more experienced and comedic, and we came up with Priscilla Barnes.
25-year-old beauty Priscilla Barnes had auditioned for the part of Chrissy's cousin 8 months earlier, but the producers deemed her too old. She was perfect, however, as the sophisticated but slightly screwy nurse, Terry Alden.
No way! Why not? Thank you!
We used to giggle because we'd go, you know, I'm the smart one, and yet the show wouldn't work if any of the main characters had an IQ over 25.
Priscilla began to feel the pressure the day she was hired.
On my answering machine was 44 messages. I'll never forget that. And they were from Good Morning America, and, you know, CBS and NBC, every morning show, every evening show, every talk show. And it was weird that I felt all this acknowledgement was coming to me, and I hadn't done anything. I mean, I hadn't put anything in the can. I hadn't walked on the set. I hadn't met my co-stars or anything. So then the anxiety started to build.
John Ritter and Joyce DeWitt just wanted to put the Suzanne Summers nightmare behind them.
By that point, we had weathered the storm. We weren't off the air. We had survived, and we were doing well again. And there was a new kind of energy, a new kind of lifeblood.
So when they brought Priscilla in, you had someone with the experience and the know-how to start doing it right away, and that was wonderful. Plus, Priscilla became one of my dearest friends.
With the addition of Priscilla, the sexual tension returned to the show, and the ratings returned to the top 10. On the surface, things were back to normal. Below the surface, Priscilla was miserable.
It was just very nerve-wracking. I mean, after the third show, I don't think anybody knows this, I went to the head of the network, Lou Ehrlich, and I said, I want to be taken off the show. I wanted to leave the show because I wasn't comfortable there.
Because Barnes was under contract, the network denied her request. Handling the sudden fame was another problem for Priscilla.
I found out that I didn't particularly, you know, care for it. I mean, when you go into a bathroom and people are underneath the stall, you know, shoving toilet paper for you to sign and ripping off your sunglasses, and it's just because you feel like you're going to disappoint them.
As the ratings rebounded, Jenny Lee Harrison's role got progressively smaller.
Poor Jenny Lee, not only was she replaced, but she had to work with the person that was her replacement.
It was soon apparent that the 6th season would be Jenny Lee's last.
I think that was the arrogance of our producers. Sorry guys, but it was. To think that, you know, they could like mold this person into what they wanted, and instead of like hiring a really good actress to do the job.
Jenny Lee accepted the news as gracefully as possible.
I would have loved to have stayed on Three's Company for the duration of Three's Company. When I knew that I was going to be leaving the show, I didn't take the time to stop and ponder that. I just kept working.
Priscilla settled into the weekly grind, but she found herself repeatedly locking horns with executive producer Mickey Ross.
He would give me a line reading on things like, how are we going to pay the rent? Oh, Jack, how are we going to pay the rent? I mean, like this one line. Like, who gives line readings on that?
Priscilla came into this well-oiled machine, and I don't think that we took the time, and when I say we, I mean the writers, producers, myself, to realize that she needed guidance as opposed to criticism.
Priscilla knew that Mickey Ross had a history of trying to shape his actresses.
I would hear all these stories how, you know, he had created Suzanne and taken her from wherever he had gotten her and made her, and then Jenny Lee.
Mickey Ross maintains that Priscilla dictated the direction of the Terry Alden character, not him.
What we had to do was write to her personality. You know, we couldn't just like say, this is, you got to play it this. We can't. So we worked with her and we saw what she could do best, and that's what we did with her.
Two things made Priscilla's situation completely different from the Suzanne Summers controversy. First, the dispute was a private, internal struggle, not the public fiasco that Suzanne's departure had been. Secondly, Barnes had an ally, Joyce DeWitt.
Because I found it difficult to work with our producers. Just in terms of the dictatorial style and their chauvinism, which was, well, honest to golly, I think at that time, if you looked in the dictionary under chauvinism, there'd just be like a little picture of their heads.
Priscilla may have felt trapped by her role, but she was under contract for 3 years.
They had offered me more money if I do another 2 years, and I had said no. And they had said, in their usual parental disciplinarian, like they were the parents and you're the child, well, if you don't do that, then they're going to give me considerably less money as a penalty, and that's what they did.
Despite the visibility Three's Company gave her career, Priscilla Barnes has mostly negative memories of this chapter in her life.
To me, it's a very sad experience, you know. There's only a couple of shows that are my favorite that make me laugh, but honestly, this is, I mean, I hesitate to say this, but, you know, those were probably the 3 worst years of my life.
Ironically, those same 3 years provided the show with some of its greatest critical acclaim. At the end of the 6th season, there was a 2-hour retrospective of the show's greatest moments. The host was none other than legendary comedian Lucille Ball, who was one of the show's biggest fans.
You know what I like about this show? It doesn't try to change the world or solve any major problems. All it does is make us laugh and forget our own cares. That's my kind of comedy.
It was a dream come true. I just remember being sort of dazed that she endorsed our show.
The next season, Three's Company taped its 150th episode. And in 1984, John Ritter won both a Golden Globe Award and an Emmy Award for his portrayal of Jack Tripper.
And the winner is John Ritter.
Thank you very much. I'm all a quiver. As Bruce said, my mother thanks you, and also she'd like to buy everybody up their lunch tomorrow morning.
But as time passed and Three's Company moved into its 7th and 8th seasons, it became clear the creative spark was beginning to diminish.
It's very hard to keep doing this because it feels like you've done everything, that you say, oh God, we're going to do that again, you know, and it's frustrating. You just run out of things.
If a show runs long enough, it becomes harder and harder to keep up the newness, the novelty, and anything else that the show has.
It became more and more difficult to come up with original storylines.
On that 8th season, and I've said this before, when Terry, Janet, and Jack are trying to hide a kitty from Mr. Furley, and I remembered in the first season when Chrissy, Janet, and Jack were trying to hide a puppy from Mr. Roper, I went,
I think you can only take a series so far. Just like what's just happened to Seinfeld, you know. Finally you can't, what else are you going to do with them?
To make matters worse, ABC's powerful Tuesday night lineup began to fade, and the face of television as a whole was changing.
TV was starting to get a little violent back then, not cartoon violent, you know, and the sitcom was in decline overall.
NBC in particular took a big chunk out of the ratings for Three's Company with 2 high-powered action series, The A-Team and Riptide. Once again, Three's Company dropped out of the top 10. Writer-producer George Burdett.
The ratings certainly gradually declined, and it had nothing to do with who was playing what role on the show.
But the producers and the network weren't ready to throw in the towel just yet.
It got to the point where we felt that we had run out of comedy situations, and we wanted to try something different.
8 seasons, that's it. So we can either all say goodbye or, you know, do this other thing.
When the E! True Hollywood story continues, a new beginning and a bitter ending.
It was difficult enough, hurtful enough, disappointing enough in terms of disrespectful treatment that I did have to disappear.
Experience the greatest true Hollywood stories ever told.
It was like a fairy story gone wrong.
Every night at 8, all September long, only on E!
Freschetta brought us together to make great pizza. Let them loose in the kitchen. We're always working with fresh ingredients. We are the Italians of the group. Freschetta means fresh in Italian. You know, you guys should try this one.
Fresh mozzarella, tomato, and basil.
We like things straightforward and simple.
Make this from scratch?
Just a little bit of flavor to give it a little pop.
Give us out the aroma of the sun.
We want to taste very clear flavors.
It's one step at a time.
It smells like a fresh pizza. That's the whole key.
That's beautiful. That's what it's all about.
Fresh thinking, fresh baking, Freschetta.
All those things together make a great pizza.
My new favorite color? Brown sugar number 63. From Garnier Nutrice, of course. Luxurious lasting color that's soft. You just gotta touch it soft. More than a simple cream, it's a conditioning mask. Nutrice combines fragrant fruit oil with permanent color in a mask. Then deep treats with nourishing conditioners right down to the heart of your hair. For rich, lasting color. And gray, you're 100% covered. Garnier Nutrice. In 30, try something new shades. Garnier. Trust them. They're experts.
You used all your quarters having a payphone, didn't you? Next time, dial down the center with 1-800-CALLATT. It's free for you and cheap for them. By the way, this one's hot.
Save big bucks on every call. Just dial 1-800-CALL-ATT for collect calls.
Ask your doctor about Nasonex with moisturizing glycerin, taken once a day for nasal allergy relief due to pollens, molds, dust, and pets, day or night. Sleep on it. Side effects were generally mild and included headache, viral infection, sore throat, nosebleeds, and coughing. Nasonex. Fewer sneezes, fewer worries.
When we first got married, she'd wear really sexy underwear, like you see in underwear ads. After a while, she started wearing the kind of underwear that I saw in the hamper when I was a kid. There's something oddly reassuring about thin, washed-out cotton underwear with little yellow flowers.
Experience the all-new X-Type at your local Jaguar retailer today.
Can you believe that? Neat. You can dunk, but you can't dip.
Your dip is gone, baby.
What are you talking about? No dip.
Introducing new Tostitos Scoops.
Let me tell you something, Bill. I put the hip in chip. Watch this.
With the bite-sized, bowl-shaped design for the perfect dip every time. New Tostitos Scoops. Whoa. The dip lover's chip.
This is my house.
Yes, it is.
No, this is my house. You guys gotta go.
Also great with new Queso Supreme dip.
Her charm seduced him.
I wish to explain.
You behave as though you've never seen a naked woman.
Never one quite so naked.
Her passion inspired him.
He wants to be a musketeer.
I need your help.
If anything.
But it was their love.
I will kill that which he holds most dear.
That would save them.
I'm coming back for you.
All for one! The Musketeer. Rated PG-13. At theaters Friday.
Say you're in New Jersey and you want to be in Maui, hypothetically. On travel website A, you'd find about 16 flight options. Website B, around 9. But on Orbit, the travel website from the airlines, you'd find over 100. That's the most you can get. So in Maui, you can relax knowing you got the most low fares. That'd be a pretty good feeling, don't you think? Visit Planet Earth via Orbitz.com from the world's leading airlines.
Every specially marked Tic Tac pack is worth a point.
No!
That's my raft. Towards all new incredible stuff.
My scooter!
Just peel the points and send them in.
That's my digital camera.
Get Tic Tacs and get all new incredible stuff.
By 1984, after 8 seasons of trials and tribulations, Three's Company began to lose the creative energy that propelled the show to #1. But instead of ending the series, the producers decided on another option. The original British version of Three's Company, Man About the House, spawned not one but two spin-offs. Three's Company had spun off the Ropers without much success. Nevertheless, a second spin-off was in the works.
They were always talking to me about a spin-off. In fact, around the fourth or fifth season, Suzanne was still on the show. They said, do a spin-off. The Ropers would do the spin-off of the Ropers, then in a few years a spin-off of You.
By 1983, ABC and the show's producers were ready to seriously consider this possibility. Executive producer Ted Bergman.
Probably in the 7th season, we started to drop out of the top 10. And at that point, the network expressed the idea that the show was becoming tired. And that's when we proposed to do a spin-off.
In the second spin-off, called Three's a Crowd, Jack Tripper finally settles down with a girlfriend, only to butt heads with her opinionated father. But even before Three's a Crowd was officially announced, Joyce DeWitt noticed some disturbing changes.
The publicity shots that were used in TV Guide or the local TV papers, TV sections, or it would either be John and both of us, or it would be John and one of us, or 90% of the time that's what would happen. All of a sudden there were all these press releases done with John and a guest star, a female, not one of the girls.
Joyce asked if the producers were planning any major changes.
I approached my producers directly and queried them on that directly and was lied to my face. And of course, being the completely trusting soul that I was at the time, I bought their explanation and, after the fact realized that I was so naive.
The producers knew that spinning off only one character might be a political minefield, so they developed the new show in secret until they were ready to break the news. Co-star Priscilla Barnes remembers the meeting.
We all sat on the floor, and they said that they were, this was the last season. They were spinning off a show.
It was like a family meeting that was really hard. But everybody came through it, and then people sort of saw the writing on the wall.
Co-stars Joyce DeWitt and Richard Klein were upset at how the matter was handled.
I think the way in which the secretive, furtive, deceptive, abusive, unkind, and cruel way in which they chose to treat their company of actors, not nice, and it broke my heart.
I think there was a sense of resentment when the spin-off was announced because of the way the ladies were treated. I don't think they were informed too much ahead of time, and, bad business.
Joyce placed some of the blame on John Ritter.
Well, I'm assuming that whatever his participation was, he did it for reasons that he knows and he feels appropriate about.
Author Chris Mann.
I think she felt that he should have told her something, and that hurt her. But then again, the producers ran the show, and they said, this is our call, and this is what we're going to do.
Priscilla Barnes, on the other hand, wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of tacky how they were handling it. But see, I thought that they had handled me shabbily the entire 3 years. So it wasn't like I was a queen and then being treated like crap. I mean, it was pretty much par for the course as far as I was concerned.
The producers now had the dual task of winding up Three's Company while looking ahead to Three's a Crowd. More than 500 women auditioned for the part of Jack's girlfriend, Vicki Bradford. Broadway dancer and television novice Mary Caderet won the part.
I had not met John, but as soon as I walked in the door and went to shake his hand, there was an instant chemistry between the two of that. I really remember that sort of click we both had.
Producer's assistant, Bea Dallas.
He liked her immediately. John just liked Mary immediately and felt she would be perfect for him.
But did the search for Jack's girlfriend really need to extend outside the show? Production executive George Sunga.
The expectation in some areas was that Jack definitely should fall in love with the Janet character.
John Ritter disagrees.
In order for the show to work, you had to have a father who despised Jack, and we had met Janet's father and Chrissy's father and mother and everything. In other words, that had to be a new character.
One other bizarre scenario presented itself. Alan Hamill allegedly contacted the producers about Suzanne Somers becoming Jack's girlfriend in the spin-off.
It was a ridiculous suggestion at that point. After she sued us, after it cost us all that money to defend ourselves, after we had to pay her additional money to settle the thing, it was obvious that she was out of our lives, and we didn't want her back.
Joining the cast as Vicky's abrasive father was veteran star of Soap and Private Benjamin, Robert Mandan.
It was really that simple. We did the last 2 shows of Three's Company. That was the bridge between the 2 shows.
But for the co-stars of Three's Company, the transition wasn't that simple.
They actually told us that they were going to take 2 weeks off to really polish the last 4 shows. So we go away on this unexpected hiatus, and we come back, and in our rehearsal hall are the cast of John's spinoff. They've been working these whole 2 weeks. They have moved into our house. We don't even live here anymore.
As the 8th season wound to a close, it was decided that the final 2-part episode of Three's Company would serve as the pilot for Three's a Crowd. Needless to say, it was a tense situation.
Both shows that we did were painful. And Mary and I really kind of stayed out of the way because we weren't really aware of all the feelings that went on.
I specifically remember Joyce sort of taking me aside and saying, you know, you might feel a little bit of tension because we sort of feel that this is the ending and we're sort of servicing a new project, and it's kind of hard for us because we wish it was being done in a little different way. But so if you feel any tension, please know that it's not directed to you.
On September 18th, 1984, in a bittersweet hour of television, Jack moved in with his new girlfriend, Vicky. Terry Alden left for Hawaii, and Janet, after a whirlwind courtship, married her boyfriend. Three's Company was no more. Joyce DeWitt took the ending particularly hard.
It was difficult enough, hurtful enough, disappointing enough in terms of disrespectful treatment that I did have to disappear and kind of go, if this is the way the game is played, I don't want to play anymore.
For the cast, the long and windy road had come to a bitter end. For John Ritter and the crew, work continued. Three's a Crowd began production and immediately experienced some controversy of its own. Jack and Vicky lived together, but they weren't married.
People had a cow. And it was the funniest thing because people at that time all over America were living together.
This was just the early 80s, and that morality was still, the old morality, if you will, was still hanging around.
Three's a Crowd premiered September 25th, 1984 in Three's Company's old time slot. After 1 season, the show finished 38th in the ratings.
I just think that there might have been such resistance that the fact that this is not one of our girls that we grew up with in the last 8 seasons, that by resentment, you know, people may not have looked at the show.
Joyce DeWitt, for one, wasn't surprised.
I think it was the most succinct example of instant karma I've ever seen. Their show failed instantly, and I know that had to have been extremely painful for all of them, particularly for John. But they built their house on sand.
ABC had a tough decision to make. Would Three's a Crowd return for a 2nd season?
We were sort of on the fence, and actually it was picked up and then not picked up and then really picked up, and then I think it was picked up for like 13 shows.
But network executives reversed themselves again in the spring of 1985. The decision was made to cancel Three's a Crowd in favor of 1 more season of the Gary Coleman sitcom, Different Strokes.
Initially, when I found out that we were canceled, I was very stoic about it, but I think it took a couple years for me to get over it.
After 9 turbulent, exhausting, painful, and exhilarating seasons, Jack Tripper tumbled across our television screens for the final time, and Three's Company faded into television history. Coming up, the stars of Three's Company reflect on 20 years gone by.
In hindsight, I would handle that renegotiation differently.
It was more than just a zip code. It was a lifestyle.
Hi, my name is Jason Priestley. I play Brandon Walsh on the new Fox show, Beverly Hills 90210.
A field sobriety test was administered on Mr. Priestley.
People love us. We're thinking teenagers.
When Shannon left the show, several people were happier.
I feel like a Beatle.
We butted heads a bit, Shannon and I.
It's the story you haven't heard.
It looked like my entire career was over.
Beverly Hills 90210. Tomorrow at 8 on the E! True Hollywood Story.
Now on video. Take a trip.
Here it comes.
Take a bite.
I feel funny.
There's adventure around every corner.
He's absolutely bonkers.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. On video cassette and DVD. Rated G.
Gentlemen, the Axiom has a 230 horsepower V6. Our commercial opens in New York City.
I love this town.
Then we go to Sweden to show off our dual mode suspension. For beauty shots, Maui at sunset. So, what do you think?
You wish. Maui.
Introducing the 10-minute breakthrough. Get beautiful, gentle, long-lasting hair color in just 10 minutes with Revlon's high-dimension permanent hair color. It'll take you longer to get dressed. High-dimension hair color, only from Revlon.
Connect with yourself. Achieve. New Balance.
First one to 5, huh? Come out.
Bang, bang, the boogie to the boogie, say up, jump the boogie to the bang, bang, boogie, let's rock. You don't stop, rock the rhythm that'll make your body rock.
Hey, can your lip color outlast this? How about this? Or this? New CoverGirl Outlast, the revolutionary lip system that will change the way you think about lip color. Just apply, then glossify, and it lasts 8 hours. It even outlasts the leading long-wearing lipstick. 8 hours? That's where I'm at. Can your lip color outlast that? New Outlast in a silver box. Easy breezy, beautiful CoverGirl.
Sunday, my folks come by, see the look in my children's eyes. Something special about grandparents, so I'm baking croissants. They're so special, they're the action, the main attraction. Now I'm showing how I feel, showing this love of mine with the heart of the meal. My heart to yours, my heart to yours. Pillsbury.
They're not just low, they're ultra low. Hips have never looked hotter. How low can you go? The only thing lower is the price. You gotta get this look. Only at Old Navy.
This portion of E! is brought to you by Old Navy. To shop online or find the nearest store, click on oldnavy.com.
The Television Academy has honored the E! True Hollywood Story with an Emmy nomination. The E! True Hollywood Story, every night at 8, only on E!
It's the 2001 Pontiac Summer Clearance at your local Pontiac dealers. Get Pontiac buying excitement with big cash back or 0% APR financing on all 2001 Pontiac models. Choose $2,500 cash back or 0 APR on 2001 Grand Am, $2,500 cash back or 0 APR on 2001 Grand Prix. Hurry in now for best selection during the 2001 Pontiac Summer Clearance. Now at your local Pontiac dealer.
It's going on right now at the corner of Sunrise and Kirby in Roseville. The complete liquidation of all furniture and bedding at the Roseville location of American Furniture Galleries. Everything must go as we vacate the building forever. A giant selection of beautiful armoires, tons of kids' furniture, recliners, a great selection of dinette sets, beautiful bedroom sets, all at liquidation prices. Get in today as time is running out fast. There is a giant selection of furniture and bedding now, but when it's gone, it's gone.
After a highly successful 9-year run, 2 spin-offs, and several painful and public cast changes, Three's Company bid farewell to the airwaves in 1985. Few shows leave behind as rich a legacy of both entertainment and turmoil. Throughout its run, Three's Company never pretended to be anything more than it was.
For the most part, I think it will be looked at as a very funny show, a farce that didn't set out to change the world, but that made people laugh and that was innocent and provocative, but harmless.
We did a one-act show every Friday night, a one-act play that, to me, they were little gems.
Some even refer to the sitcom as the original show about nothing.
I think Three's Company was, perhaps, if I can be so bold or arrogant to say that it was an early version of what Seinfeld eventually became.
Suzanne Somers and Alan Hamill have had many years to reflect on her ugly and public departure from the show.
I just wish I hadn't had to leave under such adverse conditions. I wish I didn't have to leave with all these people hating me.
I'm almost 20 years older now and 20 years wiser. And I definitely would have handled it differently. I don't know if I could have changed their minds, but my deportment probably would have been different.
It was a really tough time, and I'm glad to see that we all survived in spite of it.
Suzanne Somers left a hole that the show never completely filled.
When we lost Chrissy, the show was never quite the same.
But time has managed to heal some of the wounds.
I saw her a number of years ago and had a really great encounter with her. And, but then I always did have a great time with her. You know, I mean, she's very special to me, just like Joyce, you know, is.
Still, the relationship between Suzanne and Joyce remains strained.
But I think it ran pretty deep with Joyce. That's my feeling.
If she really now believes that that's how it happened, then she isn't going to be able to learn from the situation because her perspective is so skewed.
Until they sit down and talk to each other one-on-one, I don't know if they'll ever really be healed.
For Joyce DeWitt, the show's bitter ending sent her out of Hollywood on a spiritual journey that lasted 9 years.
I ended up studying the great religions of the world. I ended up traveling all over, working with unbelievable teachers. I have had the good fortune of studying with unbelievable people who have shared with me the wisdom that years and years of study and life has taught them.
The cast members have all moved on to other jobs and other roles, but to a certain extent they will always be known as the lovable characters they portrayed so many years ago.
We would never trade the experience for Three's Company.
Even Suzanne Somers has managed to find a silver lining.
I learned, I grew, I moved on, I moved forward, and I'm not consumed with bitterness or anything other than that was an interesting life experience, one that most people will never have.
Sadly, time has taken a toll on the show's original cast. In 1997, Audra Lindley lost a battle with leukemia. A year later, Lindley's TV husband, Norman Fell, died of bone cancer. In 2001, Suzanne Somers revealed she was battling cancer and had a lump removed from her breast. The actress also disclosed she was treating herself with Iscador, an herbal medicine, instead of chemotherapy.
You know, they took the cancer out of me, and the worry about breast cancer is recurrent, so what I've chosen to do for my aftercare is controversial, but I feel really good about it, and I just feel like, you know,
I've licked this.
Despite the problems that at times overshadowed Three's Company, for 30 minutes each week, the comedy warmed our hearts and made us laugh.
That was golden time, golden days of television. It was a rare, wonderful experience, and I'd do it again.
I was always happy and very, very grateful to come back to Three's Company every year.
Whatever challenge we may have occurred or incurred in the process of getting the show ready or doing business and mushing that all together, the actual shooting of the show, the actual audience is in, lights up, curtain up, let's do this, baby, let's give it to them now. That process was never anything but exquisite.
We used to get very strange busloads of people to come to our show. Hey, you want to watch a taping? What is it? Three's Company, never heard of it. So one time we came out, and in the front row, this was early on, there were like 17 nuns. And it's like, Chrissy, where's my left testicle? I don't know, Jack, you had it, you know, and we're doing jokes like this, and the nuns are like, Three's Company, we thought it would be the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Instead, it's these teenagers with erections and moisture. Anyway, it was a nightmare. And then they said, come on, where are you going to get these people? And they brought in literally holy people from India with dots and saffron robes going like this. Are we getting money for this? You know, and I went, they don't even understand it. Who's finding this? They're the only people that can come. You're going to Knott's Berry Farm? No, they shun us. You know, I said, oh.